One,
I guess. Alex's the first one was episode 0 because we were introducing ourselves.
That's right. It's not a real episode.
Right.
This is a real episode.
This is the real one. This is the one. So we have the kids down to bed. As you can see, our monitors. So hopefully they'll cooperate and let us talk and not interrupt us. But if they do, that's what editing's for, right? So
they'll probably interrupt us.
Yeah.
They never wake up anymore, knock on wood, but they will tonight.
They will tonight because we're doing things.
Yes.
All right, so what are we chatting about today?
Right, we're going to talk about why we chose adoption and why, more specifically, we chose to adopt 2 little guys with Down syndrome.
That's a good topic. Everyone's always asking us, why adoption, why Down syndrome adoption? So since that's like the core of our family, I guess that's only makes sense to start with that. So.
Perfect. And I think you should start this off because it's kind of your story.
Well, let's first chat about adoption.
Okay.
Just adoption in general.
Sure.
So we have always known that we've wanted to adopt. That was never a question.
We're missing some anatomy that makes it very easy to get pregnant.
It's true.
Not impossible,
we've
but
tried, but
difficult.
Nothing's happened. So, so we've always been very open to adoption. So that was it wasn't something that was like way out of left field for us. So I think for us it was, we can either take a large chunk of money and put it into trying to get pregnant and not have anything happen, or take a large chunk of money, put it into adoption, and be guaranteed something, right?
Yeah, and like to go into a little more detail with that, we did try for about a year almost to get pregnant.
The freeway.
Yes, the freeway. You can.
We'll just leave it at that.
Let your imagination go wild. And we were at a point where we knew that if we wanted to get pregnant, we were going to have to start putting money into the process.
Yeah.
And in Canada, the laws and the rules around sperm banks and fertility clinics, we didn't like it, to be honest. There were a lot of things for us that just said, this isn't us, this isn't our family.
Yeah.
So knowing that we were going to have to put money into that path or money into the path of adoption, we just decided to go down the path of adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of sums up how we got to adoption. So then let's talk about how we chose Down syndrome adoption, because it's not a very typical path that people choose, but so I guess it kind of starts with me. Growing up, I had a next door neighbor, and she was a couple years older than me, and she had Down syndrome. Her name was Mandy, and I loved everything about Mandy. She was just so magical. I loved being around her. Her personality was just infectious, and I just knew there was something very special about Mandy. And when I was about 7 years old, my mom recently told me this, but when I was about 7 years old, I came home and told my mom that I was going to have a kid just like Mandy. How cool, right? Like, how this all kind of came together. And growing up, throughout my years and teenage years, I told all my friends, if you ever have a baby with Down syndrome, you have to give them to me. Like, I had this, like, pact with all of my friends. I shit you not. This is, like, they tell this story all the time.
They do.
So yeah, I've always said, I always knew I was going to have a kid with Down syndrome. Like, that was just not even a question in my mind. So I told Alex, it's probably not long into started dating, or like, I don't know, when we got more serious about kids, I guess.
And honestly, it was a passing remark. It wasn't something I took seriously or to heart or even thought twice about, to be honest. At the time, anyways.
And then when we kind of got more serious about kids, I'd keep bringing it up, and then finally Alex was like, okay, like, maybe down the road when we have lots of money, like, we're going to have lots of money, we have money, we can afford, maybe having a kid with special needs, or, just afford maybe one of us not working, and down the road. So that appeased me for a while.
I still wish we had lots of money when we did
this. But I think that's with any kids. Anyways, so I guess when we started to dive into the adoption process, this is what happened now.
So to like go back just before, so as we started to go down the adoption process, we're talk about adoption, Holly started bringing up again, oh, what about a baby with Down syndrome? I want a baby with Down syndrome. And I'm not going to say like I was a hard no, but I was definitely a no. I wasn't even seriously thinking about it. So the winter, for the late fall of 2013, I went off to Texas for fire school, to finish my fire school. And while I was down there, one day I was the class captain of our fire school. So one of the instructors came up to me one day and said, "Listen, Alex, one of my lieutenants at my fire hall, he's got a kid with special needs. She's got Down syndrome. She is autistic, nonverbal, and they just found out the hard way that she is diabetic. She ended up going into a diabetic coma and was in the hospital for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it goes, through this process, the doctors have decided that the best way for them to handle her diabetes is to get a service dog that can detect her insulin levels. Now, keep in mind that this is the States and healthcare isn't free. So the service dog was going to cost them, I think, like $20,000, around that.
Wow.
So they started a fundraiser, and he said, Alex, if you and your classmates can figure out a way to raise some money, the school will match like up to $500. So I pulled the rest of my class lieutenants aside that evening, and we said, listen, $500 is easy. There's like 25 of us almost. That's $20 a person. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing to make $500. We can do way more than this. So we got the permission of our school's chief, the city that we were in, Crowley, Texas. We got the permission of their fire department, and then we went to the local Walmart. We keep in mind we don't get weekends off, so we worked every single day. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, after class, 7 o'clock at night after we're done, 12 hours of fire training, put on our nicest dress uniforms, went to the local Walmart, and we did a boot drive for, I think, 2 or 3 nights. And we ended up raising almost $6,000 for this family. And on the second night, the dad brought his daughter out to the fundraiser, and I got to go and meet them because I was the captain. And man, I just saw them together, and it was just mind blowing to watch this dad interact with his daughter. Like the level of bond that they had was something that you just don't see in a typical father-daughter or parent-child relationship. Like it was just so much more. I could just tell. I could just see that, just how special it was. And she was just this wonderful little girl. And I happened to be that her favorite color was purple, and I was wearing purple eyeshadow. So although she wasn't very social and had a hard time in new situations, she was all over me, and she was just awesome. At the end of the 3 days, or at the end of our fire camp, I got to present the dad with the money, and just the most heartfelt gratitude I've probably ever received from someone. And anyways, at the end of the 3D fundraiser, I guess, after we'd raised all that money and I met this family, I called Holly and I said, yeah, we could adopt a kid with Down syndrome. Just watching them together just totally changed my perspective on what being a parent to a child with special needs was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was as easy as that. She literally called and said, let's do it.
Yeah.
So she got home. This was still October?
November at this point, yeah.
So she got home, and literally the first week she was back from fire school, we started the process of adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I guess we can talk a little bit about our adoption process.
Yeah. So in Canada, there's kind of 2 routes that you can do adoption. So through CFS, which would be like the government foster care system, that sort of thing. Child family services. Or a private adoption. So you go to a private agency and you can adopt through the private agency. So the CFS government route is free. And the private agencies, there's quite a big fee to it. So initially we started with CFS, the government.
And we started with CFS as well, not because it's free, but because typically the children that are in the CFS system have either been surrendered at hospital or have been apprehended by a parent, apprehended by the government, or taken away because the parents aren't able to meet the needs. So you tend to find more kids with special needs in the CFS system.
Right. Yeah.
So we thought that,
our chances would maybe be higher.
Exactly. Yeah. So we started that process, which was, a lengthy application. We had to do a weekend parenting course. We did our home study with our caseworker. And after our home study was finished, which is kind of like the big chunk of the adoption process, we were waiting for it to get signed off, and our adoption worker came up to us and she said, listen guys, I talked to Adoption Alberta, and they've only adopted out 2 kids with Down syndrome in the last 7 years. She goes, I think if you're really set on having a child with Down syndrome, your best bet is to go through a private agency because they typically adopt out a child a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were like super discouraged. And it's heartbreaking because we know there's many more kids with Down syndrome in the system. So that means, they're just kind of getting pushed off in foster care. So it's a very sad statistic to know.
And at the time, we actually knew of like 3 kids in the semi-local area with Down syndrome
in the system.
So
there's got to be many more than that in the province.
yeah.
So then, we didn't let it totally discourage us, and we we found our adoption agency.
Yeah. This is like February at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we found our adoption agency, instantly just like fell in love with them. It felt just so perfect and so right from the second we walked in the door. We did go and interview a couple other agencies, but the one we went with was just like the one that just felt right.
Yeah.
So this was February. So then we kind of like started the process with our agency, which meant we had to do their parenting course. Our home study luckily was transferable because it was the same format from the government to the private agency. So we didn't have to redo that, which is a huge, just time-consuming thing to have to do again.
Yeah. So we did the parenting course in May.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for CFS to sign off on the home study to transfer it to a private agency so that we could then make a profile and go on the active waiting list. So this is May, going into June.
So beginning of June, we already had a trip booked, and so we went to Vegas with a bunch of friends. We were shit-faced for like 3 days straight. We did a lot of gambling, a lot of drinking. It was so much fun. Not a care in the world. We weren't even on the list yet. So totally not even on our radar.
No.
Day 4 of 8 days in Vegas. 8 days in Vegas. Like, who does that? We do. Alright, so for some reason our video stopped working. Minor glitches. We're just learning. Okay, so day 4 of 8 in Vegas.
Yep. Get an email.
We get an email, that's right. We were hungover in Denny's. We get an email from our adoption agency saying, hey, we have a situation. Give us a call. So Alex got up. She gave them a ring. She comes back to the table. She said, oh, that's interesting. There's a potential situation going on in Calgary right now. They didn't know much. Alex didn't know much, but it's kind of like just a heads up, right?
Yeah, and it seemed so far-fetched at the time because we weren't even on the list. They said, we're just telling you because we know you're interested, but we have some other families that are open to it as well, so...
We thought nothing of it.
Yeah, honestly didn't even think of it again.
Yeah, so that night we went to Fremont. We got, obliterated again. Tell your little blurb. The disclaimer.
The disclaimer. No, you tell it because it means more when you say it.
Because it's funnier. When I say we got shit-faced, it means I got loaded and she took care of me.
Yes.
That's what it means.
That's what it means.
Yeah, she always gets mad. She's like, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't drunk.
Well, I drink, I get buzzed, but someone has to herd cats, and that is me.
Yeah, so when we get drunk, it means I got floor-licking drunk, she took care of me and our friends, because that's what she does. Yeah. So Fremont Street, this was day 4. Totally forgot about this email. We went to bed at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
We got really woken by a phone call at 8 a.m. It's 4 hours later. Phone's ringing. I'm still drunk. She's we're all confused. She answers the phone. And it's a social worker from our adoption agency. And... yeah,
she's like, hey guys, it's so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Put me on speakerphone. So I put her on speakerphone, and she just starts rambling, baby Jackson is 6 weeks, blah, 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 and tells us his whole birth history, his background, his health, everything about him, a little bit about the birth mom and that situation, and kind of pauses, and then it's
she's like, so, are you interested? We're like, yeah. She's like, okay, when can you be here?
Yeah.
He's ready to go home.
Yeah, and we're like, what do you mean when can we be here? And she's like, birth mom wants to meet you guys.
He's ready to go home from the hospital. He's just waiting for a family.
Yeah.
So we get off the phone. I just start bawling. Just absolutely crying. Alex doesn't even know what to do with me.
Holly never cries. I was concerned.
She was concerned. She's looking at me. She's like, are you okay? good, bad. She had no clue what to do with me, but I was just like over the moon happy. So get off the phone. We're in complete shock. We start like frantically trying to rebook flights because we were still supposed to be there for 4 more days. So yeah, we're frantically rebooking flights.
Yeah, so here's my disclaimer to that. We fly out of Great Falls, Montana, because it's significantly cheaper than flying out of Calgary. Same distance for us. And the flights are like dirt cheap. And when we were booking the flights, I was like to Holly, should we pay the $25 for cancellation insurance?
I'm like, why? Why would we do that? Why would we spend more money than we have to?
So they're only $60 tickets anyways. Why would we spend $25?
Yeah.
So we didn't. Well, sure as shit, wouldn't you know, to cancel your flight and rebook one for the next day is $700.
Yeah, so yeah, we got bent over on that.
We always take cancellation insurance now.
So now, yes, we always do cancellation insurance. So the next day, I guess that afternoon, after we rebooked everything, we headed to the outlet mall. We like literally had nothing for baby, especially no clothes. We had a few things at home, like we were starting to get ready, but we literally had nothing. So we bought a whole bunch of clothes, and at this point, we didn't even know if this was like a thing, like it was gonna happen. We didn't know what size he was. We were just like, take my money, right?
Yeah.
We're in Vegas. So, yeah, so we bought him a ton of stuff. It was just like the most scary 24 hours of our life.
Yeah, I think we called and told my dad, your parents were on a cruise.
Yeah, we didn't really tell many people because we weren't sure.
We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the next day,
Flew to Great Falls.
Drove
up to Calgary.
I think in that 4-hour drive, we said like 2 words to each other. We were just shitting our pants.
And then I think the feeling was like, are we excited? Are we nervous? Are we scared? Oh my God, are we doing this? Should we be parents? That's like...
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, most people have 9 months to be like, oh, we had
24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was...
And I think some of those hours are like negated because we were a little bit drunk still. I was a little drunk still, so they don't even count. So yeah, so that we drove back to Calgary. We met Jackson's birth mom that night. She was just over the moon that we wanted to parent Jackson. Friggin' wasps are gonna come in here again. Sorry. And then the next day we went to the hospital and we met Jackson. And not only did we meet him, like we literally became his parents that day.
Yeah, we went and within the first hour, his birth mom had already signed over guardianship to us. Yeah.
So his adoption was just terrifying. I love telling that story though, because who does that happen to? You go to Vegas and you literally get a baby and jump on the next plane home. And we weren't even on the list. That's the coolest part about his adoption.
So we always say Jackson's what happened in Vegas. It's his place of conception.
Yeah, we say it's his birthplace or conception place.
A little both. It's where he happened for us.
So a couple years ago when he was 2, we took him to Vegas on his gotcha day. It was like a cool experience to kind of go back and like
be there. We stay at the same resort. Yeah. So we stay at the same place every time.
We love Vegas.
We love Vegas. Yeah. Right. Nico's adoption story.
So Nico's is less climactic, but still pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
So we kind of started entertaining the idea of adoption, like another adoption a couple years ago. About a year and a half ago, we decided to kind of just slowly start the process. It's a lot of money and you can kind of pay as you go with each step. So about a year, like almost 2 years ago now, we started the application.
Yeah.
Kind of slowly doing the different steps as we had money and as we kind of got more comfortable with the idea of having another child and being ready to
have another child. Jackson got healthier. He still had so many medical issues. Nobody was sleeping. So we felt that the time was right to start entertaining a second child, but at the same time, we were dying a slow death of sleep deprivation, so we weren't really that ready.
We were literally at that point up with Jackson 15 to 20 times a night, and we will get into his sleep apnea and that whole journey. That's a whole another
episode or 2 or 3 or 4.
But it was it was a living nightmare for 3 years. So, trying to add a newborn, the thought of adding a newborn into that was like no. So,
but we had the money to start the process, and we knew it was going to take a while anyway, so we kind of started chipping away at it. And then in November, so 8 months ago now, I guess, we decided, okay, we were definitely getting a little bit more on board. Jackson was actually on the path to sleeping much better. We'd had a significant improvement at this point. We had a little bit of money set aside, so we said, you know what, let's go on the list. Let's make the profile. and actually go active, which we never did with Jackson.
Yeah, so this was our first time making a profile book, which was interesting. Alex says it was fun, but she had no part of it because
it was fun for me to look at the book once it was made.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I went away for a week to go work up north at my old job, and I did the whole book while I was gone. So Alex says it was fun, but she had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So that was November.
And in November, because actually we went up to Calgary for Jackson to see the PT the last week of November, and we dropped off our profile books. Right. Now this was a soft go on the list because literally in 4 days we were going to Mexico for 10 days.
Which we bought trip cancellation.
We did. So we didn't want to, one part of your mind is like, man, what if we got another 24-hour adoption? And the other part's like, this is probably taking a year, so does it actually really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we were at.
So then come January, did we already talk about what we were open to?
I don't know, you can say it again.
Yeah, so Nico, with Jackson's adoption, we were like, all we wanted was Down syndrome. That was the only box we checked on his. Nico, we were open to both typical and Down syndrome. But as we got more serious about our second adoption, it was like, no, we want his Down syndrome. Like, typical kids weird us out. Like, to tell you the truth, sorry, tipsies. I don't know, they're just weird. All we wanted was another child with Down syndrome.
They're, I'm sure, wonderful in their own way.
Yeah, not for us. So then come January, we went out to Calgary for a week. Jackson was having surgery. He had his tonsils, adenoids, ear tubes done. So actually the day of his surgery, he was literally just out of recovery.
Yeah.
We got another email from our agency saying, hey, we have a situation. Once again, we totally forgot about it. We were so concerned with Jackson.
Yeah, the situation was just like, hey, there's this family, they're meeting with a couple different agencies, they're not even sure if they want to make a birth plan.
Yeah, it was even more like vague.
Yeah, it was super
Jackson,
vague, and it seemed,
right? They didn't know.
It really didn't even seem like it was so uncertain that this was even going to proceed with adoption, regardless if it was even their agency.
Right.
So they said they are meeting with one of our social workers, and when they do, your profile is going to be shown, but we don't even know what's going to happen at this point. So that was my day.
Yeah, so I totally forgot about it again. We're so concerned with Jackson. So Wednesday, a couple days later, we got a call from a social worker saying, hey, I met with this birth family. They chose you guys.
Yeah. When
can you meet them? Holy shit. So not only did we forget about it, and then we get this like random phone call saying, oh, they chose you. It was just like, we're so concerned with Jackson and his recovery, and we're in the thick of it at that point. So then we ended up meeting with Nico's birth parents on Saturday, so a few days later.
They came to
Calgary. We met with them, and it was like a done thing from then. It was just insane. So we went home, back to Medicine Hat, and frantically, we had 10 days to prepare for Nico, so it wasn't frantic. We had everything. It was easy, right? Like, we had everything for a boy. So it was just getting the house ready, doing lots of laundry, getting out all the clothes, all that kind of stuff. And then 10 days later, we went to where Nico was, and we did that transition and brought him home.
Yeah.
So, I guess 10 days, like, it seems really quick, but to us it was...
Again, it is just, of course, the timing and the, it just seems to come out of the blue, right? Like, it wasn't a 24-hour adoption. We had 10 days, which for us was super long, but... Again, we had just gotten on the list. It was, like, I thought we would wait a year. You know, it never really seems like it's, we never really, with Jackson we weren't on the list, but it wasn't like we were sitting around being like, we've been so fortunate not to have to sit and wait. And, like so many families wait and wait and wait, and we've just been so, fortunate to not have to go through that process. So, that's awesome.
I think for us, too, like, it's just, like, our boys are just so meant to be our boys.
Yeah.
So there's really no questioning when we get those phone calls, because it's like, it's just meant to be. Mm-hmm. It's scary, but they were just so meant for us.
Yeah. We're going to just finish off here with talking a little bit about open adoption, what that is, what it means to us. This is probably one of our most commonly asked questions, especially when it comes to just adopting the boys in general.
Yeah, I think people don't really realize what open adoption is, and it's scary when they hear, oh, it's an open adoption. How do you guys do it? Well, it's very,
So, what open adoption is in the province of Alberta is essentially at the very kind of legal limits of it is that the birth family knows who the adoptive family is and the adoptive family knows who the birth family is. Adoptive parents can't choose for it to not be open, but the birth family can choose for it to not be open. If they don't want to know where the child goes or have any contact, then that's their choice.
Which is very rare that would happen.
I think so, yeah. But yeah, so the adoptive family can't choose to not have that level.
Yeah.
So it goes into your legal work that you are committed to having a relationship that is healthy for all parties involved. And that's the end of the definition.
Yeah.
So what open relationship means, it could be a yearly email with photos, it could be a letter, it could be a phone call or Skype. It does not mean at all that there has to be face-to-face contact. And any sort of contact and letters and photos or what have you is always on the term of the adoptive parents.
Yes.
But you are legally saying when you adopt that like you're not going to neglect the phone calls and reaches out for the birth family.
Yeah, you kind of just like make just a commitment that there'll be some form of openness and some form of communication.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, we see the value and the importance of our children knowing who their birth parents are, where they came from. If they have those questions, they know that they can ask them. To us, that's very important, and we definitely see the value in it. So we're very, very committed to open relationships with our boys' birth parents. I mean, their situations are both very different. Their stories are very different. So openness with one might be different from the other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're very committed to just open, healthy relationships.
Yeah, I mean, for both, like Holly said, for both boys and their backgrounds, those are very different things. But we also understand that what might start for the first month or 2 months or a year could be very, very different in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So we're just open to see wherever those relationships take us, and as long as it's healthy for the boys, for us as a family unit, and as well for the health of the birth parents.
Yeah.
That we're open to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, to us, that's what openness is, and that's what open adoption is. It's not a big, scary, forced thing that you're forced into. So.
No.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about with adoption?
I think that's it.
People always ask, oh, is there going to be a third? Alex, is there going to be a third? We'll see. Not for a long time. If at all.
We'll see.
I want a girl.
We're open to see where the road takes us.
Yeah.
But so thank you for watching this, I suppose. And if you're liking what you see and want to tune into the next episode, we are very quickly approaching June 6th, which is Jackson's 4th Gotcha Day.
Yeah.
It's a big day in our house. So our next episode, we're going to talk about what Gotcha Day is, what it means to us, and how we celebrate it.
Yeah, we'll take you along. We'll kind of include you in some of our little celebrations, which are different every year. But yeah, it's absolutely a day we celebrate. It's a day we became a family of 3. So I'm excited to film that one.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for watching, and come back next week.
Thanks, guys.